Hi, welcome to episode 479 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I have a website called thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where I blog every episode show notes. And I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? I hope that you are doing well. It is Monday, April 8th, and here in the US, we are not quite in the path of totality for the solar eclipse, so that has been the big event of the day. We have the special eclipse glasses, and so I went outside and we were able to see it. I had a meeting during the time when it was most prominently noticeable, because the world got pretty dim outside. I think we're about 80%, 90% totality. Like really, I would have to go a few hours east to be in the line of full. But so we got to see that, and that was kind of fun. It is kind of an interesting experience. The sky gets really dim, and sometimes the animals, sometimes there's more activity, sometimes there's less. They think it's evening, they're not sure what's going on. So it was kind of fun. So I also, on the less exciting news, I got myself a physical therapy appointment, and I went to physical therapy this morning, and they concluded that they think I have tendonitis. So, which is also known as tendon elbow. Basically, the muscles right here in my arm are inflamed. And the prescription is to cut back on all the things that I'm doing, which includes knitting and sewing and spinning and kind of everything that makes my arm hurt. So the goal is to kind of reduce the swelling and inflammation over the next week or two and not knit and craft during that time. And then to develop some more wrist muscles and do wrist stabilization exercises so that I'm not taxing those muscles so much. So I may cancel next week's podcast because I'm not going to be doing much knitting at all this week, and I don't think I'm going to have, I have a bunch of stuff to talk about this week, oddly enough, that doesn't have anything, well, it has to do with knitting, but like it doesn't really have to do with my producing knitting to show you. So I don't know 100% for sure whether I will record or not next week. Stay tuned. If there's not a recording, I will likely return the week after. But while I'm not really producing anything, I don't have a lot to tell you guys. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a good weekend. I actually had a fabulous and knitting related weekend. So, like I said, I have all kinds of things to talk to you about today, even though I haven't really been crafting right this second. So this weekend, my good friend Christine, who is owner of Treasure Goddess Yarns, I have used her yarns. She lives literally just a couple miles down the street from me, way out here in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. It's not really the middle of nowhere. I live right outside of Kansas City proper. Christine invited Marie Green, who is, I think, Olive Knits, and she is the one who does the 4-day sweater knit along, and she does a bunch of knit camps. Anyway, she invited her in town to do some workshops, and I could not attend the workshops on the Saturday morning because I already had something else going on. But on Friday night, she rented out a local winery, and it was just a night to kind of eat and like nosh a little, drink a little wine, listen to Marie Green, and then try on the trunk show samples for Marie Green's new book, and kind of just hang out. And it was amazing. I really have not gone back to a lot of in-person events since before the pandemic. So I saw people there that I haven't seen probably in 4 or 5 years. And it was really, really nice to catch up with people. And even people who I see in my knitting group on Zoom sometimes, because we, in the pandemic, we took to meeting on Zoom. We haven't really gone back to in person. We've met in person a few times, but we really just don't see each other that often. So I actually got to sit next to a few people that I knew and hadn't like seen in person for a while, and the wine was super yummy, and as it turns out, the winery is really close to my house. I live kind of in the suburban bordering on rural edges of southern Kansas City on the Kansas side, and the winery was only like 10 or 12 blocks from my house, which is really far south of kind of Kansas City proper. And so it was really nice. It's nearby. And it was a lovely evening. So I picked up a copy, and I think this one is signed, but it might not be. I can't remember whether she said it was signed or not. No, it's not signed. So the newest book is called Knitting Light, and it is by Marie Green, and it is a bunch of tops and tees knit in lighter weight yarns. Some of them plant-based, some of them not plant-based, but it's just got a whole bunch of tops. I'll just show you the back here. Now, this isn't really a review because I haven't read the book. I haven't gone through yet, but there are several tops in there that I'm actually interested in knitting, and many of them, one of them was specifically designed in Christine's yarn, and many of them will work with Christine's yarn because they're for fingering weight yarns. So she is founder of Olive Knits and author of Seamless Knit Sweaters in 2 Weeks and The Joy of Yarn. These are 20 seamless tops, tees, and more for warm weather wear. So, and I kind of got into knitting tops and tees last summer, and I'm working on one now, and I don't know how quickly it will happen, but I am working on one now, and I would love to make one from this book. Christine, Treasure Goddess Yarns, is going to be having a knit along over the summer. I know that Marie Green is going to be doing some knit alongs over the summer, and she also has her 4-day sweater camp, which is a challenge to try and knit a sweater in 4 days, which I will not be doing. If only because this year I will not be taxing myself that much. But she will be doing her knit a sweater in 4 days. I think it starts July 1st. It's July 1st through 4th, I think. Anyway, so that is the book that I picked up, and then because I love Christine's yarn, and she dyes a bamboo linen blend, I made a top by Justina Lorkaska last year, and I can't remember what the top name is. Maybe it will come to me, but I made it in kind of a coral color, and it's got lace at the shoulders, and then it's just kind of a square tee, and I love it, and I wear it all the time, particularly in the warm months. I mean, I wear it less in the cool months, but in the warm months, I wore it a whole bunch, and I loved it, and every time I wash it, it just gets softer and softer and softer. And Christine had dyed up more linen bamboo this year, and she expanded her colorway range, so she's got other colors now. And this is Fathom, which is like a dark blue. It reminds me a lot of denim. So it's just absolutely lovely. Maybe it's like a cornflower blue. It's really, really pretty. And so I picked up enough skeins to do another top in. And I don't know what that top will be. I do know it might be my next cast on because I really love this and I want this to be something that I can wear this summer. So I'm super excited about that. So that was kind of my Friday night, and it was not very long. It was 5:30 to 8, and it was just lovely. I had a glass of wine and a little nosh, and sat and chatted with a whole bunch of people I haven't seen in forever, and it was really just kind of invigorating. And there's this phrase that I know that people use, like, it filled my cup. Like, it really did. I woke up with a smile on my face on Saturday morning. The only other thing I did of import this weekend is I ran I walked and jogged a 5K on Saturday morning. I did have to get up early and do that, and that's one of those things where I never really want to do it, and then I always feel good after having done it. So we did a race called Rock the Parkway, which is here in Kansas City, and the rock part is because they hire a bunch of bands, and so they have like bands and music playing all throughout the course, which is kind of fun. So I did that, and then the rest of the weekend I mostly just took it easy. I did do some crafting. I did a little bit of sewing because the sewing that I had in mind to do was actually something that did not hurt my arm at all. So a lot of what is hurting my arm is when I'm moving my wrist a lot, and like I don't think that I could free motion quilt right now, sadly, because I have a quilt top that's now ready. I sewed the top together, which was basically just a lot of seams through the machine and then a little bit of ironing, and it actually didn't hurt that badly at all. But I know as soon as I get geared up to like push the quilt through the machine and actually have to use my arms, I know that that's going to bother me. So yeah, that's a little bit on hold, but I might show you that towards the end. Okay, so let's get into the podcast proper, which always starts with the tea. I'm drinking today in my Missouri Star pottery mug, which I love. It came from their Advent box this past year that I took part in, and it actually matches my nail polish. Very exciting, Missouri Star Blue. And I am drinking masala chai from Tea Market, and I believe the masala chai is probably Hardy & Sons, because they do stock a lot of Hardy & Sons. So, but that is from Tea Market, which is here in, technically it's on the Missouri side of the state line, up around 55th, and it is the Tea Market. It's in the Crestwood Shops area. So that is what I'm drinking today, and it is delicious. So let's talk about, well, okay, I have one knit and I have one little spin thing to show you, and then I will talk about sewing. So what I wanted to show you is I have made a little bit of progress. This is almost the only knitting I did this week. I made a little bit of progress on my applesauce top, and that is a pattern by Noriko Ho, and it is kind of a wrap front top that has two different colors, so I'm using two solids, and one kind of front v-neck wrap is in one of the colors, the other wrap is in the other color, and then the back is in stripes. And I am still working on, I guess this was the left front, I have to look at it, and yeah, the left front v-neck wrap, and this is what I've got so far, and you can see that my armhole is here. And I will say that I was only maybe an inch or two below the armhole, so I have actually knit a decent amount this week, but of course it's not super wide, and I did some of it Friday night, I did some of it a little earlier in the week, I knit a little bit over the weekend. For me, this is not that much knitting, but it was the amount of knitting that I felt comfortable doing, and basically I'd knit a few rows and then rest a little bit and knit a few rows and rest a little bit. And I may do that a little bit more this week. She basically said, don't strain yourself. You can knit a little bit if you wear a wrist brace while doing it. We just want to keep your wrist from pulling those muscles. So I'm gonna play it by ear and see how it goes. She also gave me exercises and some massaging movements to do, so hopefully that will help. She basically said the big goal is to get it to stop hurting. So and then work on building it back up. So that's sort of where I'm at. So I will work on this. I think I have a few more inches to go. I think this measurement here is supposed to be about 11 inches for my size, and I'm probably looking at 6 or 8 here, so I have a few more inches to go on this, and then this will go on waste yarn, and then I will cast on for the other side. And the contrast color, this is Christine's Yak sock, which is yak and superwash merino and a little bit of nylon, and so it's lightweight, it's fingering, and this is called From the Depths She Rose. And then the contrasting color is Song of the Sirens, which is a colorway of hers that I love, so it's going to be this burgundy. So, and the top takes right around between 800 and 900 yards, so I think I should have enough to finish it. If I have enough, I'm probably going to do a little cap sleeve on it. The pattern has that kind of as an option, but I'm going to wait and do the rest of it first and then decide if I have enough to do some cap sleeves. We will find out, and so that is kind of what I am working on right now. So, that is the only sort of knit that is in progress. I did a little bit of chicken knitting this week, and I'm going to put that on hold for the next couple weeks just to, because that tends to be bulky yarn and a little bit more challenging to work with. And so I think I'm going to try and take a short leave of absence, I hope very short, from that, just because that's probably aggravating it as well. Like I'm trying to figure out what I can do not to aggravate it. So that is the only knit project that I worked on. I didn't touch the blanket that I'm working on. I didn't touch anything else. And honestly, I'll probably keep this as a, because it's done in pieces, so it will be lightweight, so it will not be strenuous for me. I'll probably keep this as my, you know, when I feel like I can knit, I'll do a few rows on this one. Or when I feel I can't stand it any longer without knitting, I'll do a few rows on that. So the other thing that I finished is I finished the first bobbin of my spin. I finished this on Wednesday night, and this is Shockwave from Gritty Knits, and it is Rambouillet. And I started the second one. Again, this is one of those things that I'm using my pinching muscles, and so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I'm not going to hazard a guess that this will be done by next week, because my guess is I won't work on it at all. But that is kind of the spin in progress, and you know, I'm just going to kind of roll with it and do what I can when I can. So, I had already talked about bringing this stuff. Last week I talked to you, oh, and I didn't bring the, well, you'll be able to sort of get it. So in the last couple weeks, I have been working on some projects for Missouri Star, and I don't think these, to be clear, I don't think these are what have aggravated my arm at all. These are just little bits of sewing here and there. Missouri Star produces acrylic templates, basically just acrylic shapes. and they have done a couple different collections of them. There are some standard quilting shapes, but then there are also some other templates that they have produced for fun. They did a Christmas collection that had a bunch of different shapes. It had like a Christmas ornament, like a globe ornament, and it had like one of the old-fashioned Christmas lights, like the bulb lights, the outline. There was a stocking, there was a snowflake, there was a snowman, and a tree. And then most recently, they released a set of what they called the spring collection, which was a flower, a butterfly, a watering can, a bird, and I can't remember what else. There were 6. A bunny, an Easter egg. So those were the templates, and so templates, like I said, they're acrylic shapes, and what you can do with them, and this is just for anyone who hasn't sewn before, you can cut out shapes of fabric. You can basically take your acrylic template and you put it on top of your fabric and you trace around it in chalk or pencil or a marker or whatever you want to use, and then you can cut it out and you can create things in the shapes. Now, the most obvious thing to do with shapes is do some applique, which is you cut out a piece of fabric in the shape of whatever the template is, and then you sew it to something else on the back, and that process is known as applique. And there are a variety of ways you can do that. You can use some sticky interfacing to like hold the two together. You can fold the edges under so it's a nice clean finish. You can do what's called raw edge applique, which is you can just kind of sew around the outer edge of the seam, which is what I did in the case of the 2 examples that I'm going to show you. And then you just I used like a zigzag stitch just along the outside of the edges. I probably should have used some interfacing, but I didn't have any with me. So the first thing that I did is I had made 2 A-line skirts from Sonia Phillips skirt patterns a couple years ago, and I had made one out of Kona cotton and one out of a print. Both were things that I just bought at Joann's, and so I just made myself a basic A-line skirt with elastic at the waist, and I don't really wear them very much. I have them in my closet, but particularly since I stopped going outside the house to work, honestly, most of the time, including right now, I am wearing yoga pants. Usually I'm kind of dressed on top and not on bottom, because that's how it is when you work from home. And so I decided that I wanted to kind of spruce up my skirts a little bit and try a little bit of applique with these. And I should say that what I was doing was I was getting ready to write a blog post for Missouri Star about how you can use these templates. Because a lot of people understand that you can cut them out and put them on quilts. But some of them, like particularly the Christmas set, but also like the Easter bunny, like the bunny and the Easter egg, like you might put those on a quilt, but then you might wonder like what else you're going to do with them. You're not going to make a ton of Easter quilts because it's a one-day holiday. Well, I mean, I guess you have a little, but my point being that you're not going to like constantly be appliquing these everywhere. So the point of the post was to kind of give you some ideas on other things that you could make that would be useful. So the first thing that I did is I spruced up a couple of my skirts, and this is the Kona cotton skirt. It's just like a magenta color, and it's just a pretty plain skirt. And what I did is I took the little floral template and I took some floral fabrics and I cut them out in shape, and then I, like I said, I zigzag stitched around them in a matching thread. I still had the thread from when I made the skirt. So I zigzag stitched around them to kind of add a little cluster of flowers down at the bottom of the skirt. And so it's kind of simple. It just adds a little something extra to it. And I had this gorgeous fabric collection. This is called Wandering. It's by Stephanie Organis. And it's just a beautiful kind of fresh floral collection, and it did have kind of pink and burgundy in it, so I thought it was really great. Like the color on these yellow flowers, and I don't know what these are, the outline is this dark pink that almost matches the pink thread that I used. So on this one I probably could have used a little bit of interfacing because getting around all the petals was a little hard, and it is, it's not 100% perfect in terms of like laying flat. It looks pretty good because I ironed it before I put it back in the closet, and I had to iron it to take some pictures for the blog. But so that was the first one that I did. And then the second one that I did was actually to show off a new template that will be available later this month. If you know about Missouri Star, and you don't have to, and this is, I'm definitely not, I'm not shilling for company products here. I have no affiliate links. I do work for the company, and I made these sort of as a, like I said, as a blog post to share about ideas that you can do with the templates, but I'm sharing this with you just because this was like me learning how to sew some new things and some of the things that I've done in the past couple weeks that I couldn't share with you until the blog post went live. So the second one that I did, if you know Missouri Star, you know that our mascot is Chuck the Duck. He quacks before every video, and we have a variety of things that go on with Chuck. He's on a lot of things. We have a fabric collection that features Chuck. We also have, anytime you place an order with Missouri Star, you get a flat Chuck in your box usually, and there are a variety of flat Chucks. I can show you the most recent one that I got is Soda Fountain Chuck. So they're literally, it's kind of like based on the flat Stanley thing. They call it a flat Chuck, and people take them everywhere. They take pictures with them. I have another one in here for when I placed an order in February and we were launching our embroidery line. So there's an embroidered Chuck, and then I actually have a couple more Chucks behind me. I just kind of put them up and keep them in my journal, and they're just fun. But Chuck's birthday is coming up later this month. They decided that April 24th was his birthday, and on April 24th we will be launching a Chuck the Duck template. So I took the Chuck the Duck template and I used the Chuck the Duck fabric and then added it to my skirt. And again, I still had the thread from when I made the skirt, so and I think the teal and the orange and yellow are just kind of a nice compliment. And again, it's just a cute little duck on this skirt, and now I have to wear this skirt the next time I go to Hamilton so I can show it off. Hamilton is where the company is located. So that was kind of what I did with that. The second idea that we came up with is, so a lot of the templates come with a small template and then a large template. So I used the small flowers on my skirt, but there is actually a larger flower template, and that is this one. And so I decided that what I wanted to try and do was make a pot holder, or a hot pad. And so what I did is I quilted, and I did a really good job on all but the last part of this. So I'll show you my mistakes, and I'll also show you what I did well. What I did well is that I went ahead and I took my top fabric and my backing fabric, and I stuck both a layer of regular batting and a layer of insulated batting in there. It's batting that has kind of a metallic finish on it, and you can't use it in the microwave, but you can use it sort of as a trivet pad for hot dishes, because the metallic stuff kind of absorbs the heat into the dish, and so you put this between your hot pan and the table, and it should protect the table. So what I did really well is I went ahead and I sandwiched my top and my two battings in there, just stacked on top of each other, and the backing, and then I quilted diagonal lines through it. And they're not 100% straight, but they look pretty good. And I continued to use that teal thread that I had been using on my skirt, and so that kind of matched this. And then I came to the hard part. And the hard part is that since I layered everything together in my first pass, I needed to go ahead and add binding to the outer edges. And one of the things that is difficult about this shape is that the edges are curved. And so what I had to do was I had to create something called bias binding, which is when you have a fabric, most fabrics are woven. And what happens is you've got kind of your warp threads running up and down, and you've got your weft threads running back and forth, and those are kind of on the grain of the fabric. So you can cut on the grain, you can cut vertically, or you can cut horizontally. If you pull on them vertically or horizontally, you don't get a lot of give. You get a little bit, but you don't get a lot of give. Now, on the other hand, if you pull diagonally, which is on the bias, you will get a lot of give. And so when you're going around a square quilt, you don't need a lot of give because you're not trying to run fabric around a corner. But when you're folding it over the corner, you're not trying to gently ease it in over a curve. When you want to ease it in over a curve, you need to create what's called bias binding. So I went ahead and I cut all my strips, and I cut them on the bias, and I sewed them together, and I went to go ahead and apply them. And this is kind of typical me in the sense that I thought, oh, I really like the flower template. I really want a flower trivet. I'm going to do that without thinking about the fact that there are lots of petals, and you're going in and out and in and out and in and out, and that's actually kind of difficult. And So the first time around, I went ahead and I sewed the binding onto the front of the pot holder, and then I went to fold it around. No, I decided I wanted to machine bind this one. So I sewed the binding around the back of the pot holder, and I did that fairly well. Not perfectly, but fairly well. But then I totally junked up the front. I didn't leave enough fabric over those curves that are concave, the ones that require more on the outside and the ones that require less. I didn't like tighten it up enough. And then I went over and tried to zigzag stitch, and what I ended up with is kind of a nightmare. So it looks like a Frankenstein project. And I was really kind of upset because, like I said, I did this one for the blog, and then it looked not nice enough to show on the blog. Now, it's fine. I'm going to use this. I'm totally going to use this in my kitchen. It is fine. But I expect a certain level of quality and competency if I'm going to show off my project work on a company blog. And I definitely did not achieve that. You can see that there are like small parts where I have like pleats where I missed picking it up entirely. You can see I went around twice, and so it's got this really weird like zigzag and zigzag, and then you can see like in spots where the needle skipped stuff. So this was not as much of a success. Like I said, it looks lovely. I will use it in my kitchen. It will not be a problem. But this one didn't pass the muster. So then I decided to try again, and what I decided to try again with was something much simpler. And so the simple pattern template that I went with, and I'll show you my mistakes on these too, because there are some. The simple thing that I went with is the Christmas ornament. So this is the Christmas ornament template. You can make it big, you can make it small. And what I did on this one is I tried a different method. So I actually made two of these. And I tried two different things. On the first one, this was the one that I made first. And so on the first one, I was trying to decide which side I wanted my quilting lines on. So the way I made this is I sewed this together like you would sew a pouch or a square piece of fabric together like a pillow cover, and I left a little opening so that I could turn it right side. So I put the right sides together and I sewed it, and then I flipped it inside out, and then I ran a top stitch around the edge to kind of close up the little section. Well, I did it all the way around the edge, but in the process I closed up the section where it had been open. So on this one I quilted the back to the 2 layers of batting. And then I placed front and back. I placed the right side of this to the right side of this, and I sewed all the way around. And then I clipped the corners, and I clipped kind of along the curved edges to allow it to flip inside out. And then I flipped it inside out, and then I folded, and you can see because I missed just a very little bit. I still leave something to be desired, but I could hide it enough that I could take the photos. I flipped it inside out, and then what I did is I folded this section. This was right where my turning area was, and you can see I have like the fabric's not quite perfect there. And then I folded the edges of the fabric in, and then I ran the top stitching all around the outer edge. So on this one, technically I would consider this the back. The back is quilted and the front is not, and it mostly came out fine. So, and then I did a second one where I thought, well, now I want to try it the other way. So I quilted the top to the 2 layers of batting, and then I put the backing on it, and I sewed around it, and I flipped it inside out. And then when I went to close this one up, I missed a little bit. So I need to go back and rip this open and fix it, but I hid this part in the photograph because that's what I do, because I'm a professional. So I have 2 Christmas themed kind of trivets now that I can put on my table at Christmas. And this was just, I picked up a small Christmas fat quarter bundle. I want to say there were like 6 or 8 pieces in it. It was inexpensive, and I just needed some Christmas fabric to kind of do my do my projects. So those were the first couple projects. And then the last project that I did is we had small versions of the Christmas templates, and I decided to turn these into either gift tags or hanging ornaments. You can call them whatever you'd like. I did put ribbon on them to hang them, but these are the two that I made. So I had more fabric from the same collection, just little bits and bobs. And so we have one that's like a little Christmas stocking. And so I made the little Christmas stocking. And I tried to put the ribbon on the inside, and I didn't quite catch it close enough. So I ended up having to put it on the back. But on this one, I actually did much better. And so the ribbon is actually on the inside. And so again, I sewed these together and flipped them right side out and then just closed up the edge. And you can see I closed it up over here. It's like a little less round over here because that's where I closed it up and had to put it in. But the full one, the stocking one, came out really nice. So these are just two little, they could be used as ornaments on the tree. I did put a small layer of batting in between them. So it's two fabrics and a little bit of batting. And again, I just sandwiched them together in such a way that then when I turned it right side out, I could fold up the edge and sew it together and then be done. And so that's the same thing that I did with this one. And I think these would be super fun as ornaments on the tree, but the other thing I think they would be super fun as is gift tags. You could easily embroider a letter on here or draw with a fabric marker a letter on here, and then you could put these on like the top of your presents to give away. Or you could probably attach something to the back of them and use them as like napkin ring holders. So, like I said, the purpose of this post was just really to give people an idea of what they could do with the templates so that they could use them more than like just once for one quilt. And then the only other thing that I did with the template was I decided that I'm sure that you could use these templates for a whole variety of paper crafts. You could use them to cut out cardboard gift tags. You could use them to make garlands, sewn or not sewn. But then the other thing that I tried to do, and this is again not the best measure of my skills because I am not a watercolor artist, but what I tried to do was I used the little bird template and I put it in here, and then I tried to use some ink washes in my journal and kind of play with that a little bit. And it was supposed to be my take at a robin, and it looks kind of like a 4-year-old did it, but that was the way it went. So that is sort of my exploration of Missouri Star templates. There is a blog post on the website called The Top 10 Uses for MSQC Templates. And so that was the project that I was doing. Somebody else that I work with made a couple other samples, plus we had some customer samples and a few quilt patterns from influencers. So that's out there if you're looking for it, but that was kind of the other projects that I've been working on. So I actually managed to talk for quite a bit today, which I hope will hold you over if I decide to skip next week. I'm just going to play it by ear and see what happens. If I have a few things to bring and show you, then I will come and share them. And if not, then I will probably take a week off and be back with you in 2 weeks. So I hope that you're enjoying spring. I hope that if you were anywhere in the US that got a little bit of a view of the eclipse, that you got to go out and see it. Be sure you wore your glasses. And that you are having some crafty fun. I'm going to live vicariously through the rest of you. I hope you're making wonderful projects, and I look forward to seeing them while I sit at home and probably read more. I guess that's what I'm going to do for the next couple weeks because I don't know what else to do with myself. But I hope you take care, and I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.